Can you hear me, everybody? Okay. Good morning or good afternoon, I don't know, everybody. I'm Erika, and today I'm here to talk about Ansible. I hope you are enjoying CloudConf so far. I am. Before we get into the talk itself, I'd just like to introduce myself quickly. I work as a developer advocate for DigitalOcean. This is our mascot. I wrote a book called Vagrant Cookbook, which obviously talks about Vagrant, but I also wrote about Ansible and other provisioners, and that's where I started to use and to like Ansible. And then I wrote a project called Ansible. It's an open source project, and it's basically a web interface where you can create, choose a lot of options, and download a bundle containing a Vagrant setup using Ansible as a provisioner and focus on PHP development because I am a PHP developer. And I also have some other open source projects, and I am from Brazil, but I live in Amsterdam. Okay, that's what I had to talk about me. So what do you expect from this talk? I will start with an overview about Ansible. I will talk about using inventories and running ad hoc commands. Then I will talk about how to use Playbooks, and then I will do a kind of Playbook crash course to show you how you can create, write your Playbooks and make them smart. So let's start with the Ansible overview. So Ansible is a configuration management tool or automation tool created with simplicity in mind. It's kind of similar to Puppet and Chef if you used these tools before, but it's much more simple than those tools. It uses a human-readable language. It's very easy to understand. It uses YML for the configuration scripts, for the provisioning scripts, and it's very straightforward. Ansible is agentless. You don't need to install anything on the machines that you want to control. You just need to install the controller machine. And the communication is done via SSH. You just need to have a proper SSH connection between the server and your controller machine. It also has an extensive list of built-in modules, and it's used by big names like Twitter, Atlassian, EA, Spotify, and even NASA. So how do you install Ansible first, right? On Mac, you can use Brew. On Ubuntu, you can use apt. It's very easy. But Windows is not supported as a controller machine. I am so sorry. If you use Windows, I am sorry for you for that and for many other reasons, but you can still use Ansible. You just need to use a VM for that, and you can do it. It's okay. Setting up the SSH access is also important to have everything working easily. The best setup, the ideal setup is to have the server's SSH connection via K-pair authentication. So also it's recommended to have a user on the server, a normal user with sudo privileges. And with no passwd permission, so you can run the commands and you are not going to be asked for a password on running sudo commands, and that's better because then when you run the Ansible commands it will be easier. You don't need to provide extra parameters. And this is a link. You can download these slides later, and this is there is a quick tutorial in this link on how to set up the SSH. So let's start the fun part. Okay, let's talk about inventories and ad hoc commands. So inventories are the configuration files, let's say, that where you can define the machines that you want to control with Ansible. And as you see here, I have two groups of servers. So it's an ini file. It's very simple. I have two groups, web server and test servers. And you can use host names, you can use IP addresses, and there are also other things you can put in the inventory file, but this is a simple example just so you understand how it works. So once you have the inventory file, this is the default inventory file in the location etc Ansible hosts. but you can also use separated inventory files per project if you want. There's no problem. And then once you have this setup and the machines are accessible via SSH with your current user, you can start running ad hoc commands. Ad hoc commands are very useful because you can run one command in one to like hundreds of machines you control. You can see if they are online, you can run any kind of shell commands you want, or you can use Ansible modules to perform some actions, so they are very useful. So the basic usage we have is like Ansible, the command, and all here I am saying that I want to run this command in all machines in my inventory. So you have to provide the group or the machine you want to run. You can also use a group like web servers in this example, and you can also use a specific host or IP address. And the first example here, I am running ping commands. This is just to see if the machine is online. The second command is running a shell command. So if you use -a, you can run any shell commands. And this will run in all machines in this group. And this is using a specific inventory file. So you can have per project inventory files, and you can just specify in which inventory you will run the commands. But I have a demo. But I have a video demo because you know what happens with demos. So yeah. Thank you. So I cannot pause the video, but it's okay. This is the inventory file, just so you know which groups I have. And I am running a ping command on the production group. So this is the output you get. Success, all machines are online. Then I am running the command again on the testing server. And I am running now a command. So what does this mean? So this machine here, it has PHP installed because I run the command php-v. And these other two machines here, they don't have PHP, and that's why I got the error, because PHP, the command, the executable is not available. So this is how you run ad hoc commands. But this is not automation yet. Of course, you are just running commands manually. It's good, of course, because you can run in a lot of machines, but it's still not automation. So now let's talk about using playbooks. That is the real fun part of it. Playbooks are the main provisioning scripts from Ansible. They are the equivalent of a Puppet manifest, for instance, or a chef recipe. So this is how it looks like. This is a very simple playbook. I am running in all hosts from my inventory, but you can still limit, when you run the playbook, you can still limit to a specific group of servers. I am defining a default here to use sudo in all my tests. The tests that don't require sudo, you can still override this too. And I have a special section, tasks. So this is the most important part of the playbook, because this is where you define the tasks that you want to run. So I have two tasks here, very simple. I am updating the cache, the package manage cache. This is Ansible module apt. So it abstracts the package manage for different operating systems. It's different than running apt-get updates, because this will be Debian specific, but this will, you can run this in different operating systems. And the same module you use also for installing the packages. So I get the Nginx package and I want to change the state to latest, so it will get the latest version and install it. And the name here is more for output purposes, because then it shows up when you run the playbook. And to run the playbooks, you will be using another command, Ansible playbook. So the first example here, it's using a specific inventory file. And it's limiting. The -L is for limit. So I'm limiting to the web servers group. And at the end, you specify the playbook you want to run. The second example here is using the default inventory file. And it's running the playbook, but it's not actually executing anything. It will only list the hosts where the playbook would be executed. And this is very useful. Also, the last example here, we will only list the tasks that would run when you run the playbook. So that's also very useful if you are not sure what's going to run. And I have another demo. This is the same thing that I just showed, the same playbook, very simple. And the hosts, I'm going to use the same hosts I used before, the same inventory. So Ansible playbook, I'm limiting to just this last server here in the testing server, because I know that it doesn't have a web server installed yet. We just saw before when I run php-a, it doesn't have PHP, and I know that it doesn't have Nginx or any web server, so I'm going to install it. So you see here, this is the default output from Ansible playbook. Play all, it's going to play in all hosts, but this thing here overrides what I say in the playbook. Gathering facts. I am still going to talk about facts, but basically it's information about the system. So it's gathering information about the servers that are controlled. And the task here is updating the cache. So this is the output from the task. It's okay. And then the task install Nginx. So you see that there is something different changing here, and it didn't change here because the automation tools like Ansible, Puppet, Chef, all these automation tools, they see the system through resources with states. So a package has a state, a user, it can be absent, it can be present, and so when something changes, it shows here changed. When you run the apt-get update, it doesn't change really anything. It's just a cache update. But when you install a package, it actually changes the state. So yeah, that's why. And you can see here that it changed one thing. So this was all fun, but you know, we can do much more. This is just very static so far, but you know that with Ansible, as with Puppet and Chef, we can actually create very smart playbooks, conditional execution, and using loops and things like that. They are also available in Ansible. We can also use these things to make our playbooks more smart. And so it always starts with variables, right? They are all kind of similar to programming language, but very simplified because they are very focused on one thing, this automation, system management. So variables in Ansible, they are, there is a special section on the playbook where you can define variables. There are also other ways, but this is the simplest way. You can define all variables that you want here, and you can use them anywhere in the playbook. Also in templates and other included files that you will be using. They have a global state. So Ansible is written in Python and uses Jinja 2, a template engine from Python. If you use PHP and you ever use Twig, it's quite similar. So this is how you access the variables. So facts are a special type of variables. We just saw that running on the playbook. This information the facts have information about the system like network interfaces, IP addresses, OS family. It also shows like if the server is a virtual machine or not, and things like that. So it's very useful, and you can use this information to make your playbook work across different operating systems. So it's very useful. Loops. The way Ansible implements loops is using this special option with items. And it is actually a YML array that you pass to the task, and the task will loop through these values. So instead of creating one task for each package that you want to install, you can simply provide an array of the packages and then loop through it. This can also be used for creating users in the system or doing anything else that you like, that you want to do multiple times. And also you can define the packages, the array here on the var section and use anywhere you want. Conditionals, also very useful. So Ansible implements conditionals with this option when, special option when. So as the name suggests, the task will only be executed when a condition is met. So when this is true, whenever this condition is true, the command will be executed. You can also use different kinds of comparison and filters here. You can, for instance, here is not defined, and you can also use, and there are these terms that are very useful and human readable. You can, this task will fail. The fail will, of course, fail the provisioning. So it will stop the provisioning with an arrow. And if the variable bar is not defined, and then this message will show up and the provisioning will stop. So if you didn't define the variable bar somewhere in your provisioning, the provisioning will stop. And this is useful. Sometimes you need a variable, you need a value, user, a document root for your web server, something that is very important, and you need that, and then you can fail the provisioning if it is not defined. There are also other ways to use these conditionals, and sometimes you need to check if a value is in a variable, like in a configuration file, for instance, and only perform an action if it's already there. So you can do that too, using this when keyword. Templates are also very important because they made it easy for setting up services. Basically, the most important usage is for configuration files. Like this is Apache vhost. Then you can create a template and use a variable here that you define in the playbook, like I showed before in the var section, and then it makes it very easy to configure and create new Apache vhosts. How to use a template? That was just a template file, of course, and then to apply the template, you have the template module. So you just define the source for the template, and this, in this case, is relative to the playbook, to the file where you are running the test, and the destination inside the server that you want this to be, the template to be rendered. One thing important is that once you change a configuration file, what do you need to do? You need to restart the server, right? And that is an easy way to do that with Ansible. It's not something only for Ansible. All the other tools have this too. In Ansible, it's called handlers. In Puppet and Chef, it's called services. So you define a service or a handler to make it easy for restarting a service. So once you execute a task like this to change the template, you notify a handler. And at the end of the play, the handlers will be executed. This is important to notice because the restart will only happen at the end. And this is a more effective way for doing that. You don't need to restart right away, actually, at least most part of the times. If you really need to restart right away after you change a template file, you can still force this. But by default, the handlers will be executed just like the tasks in the order they are defined. So it doesn't matter if you have 10 tasks notifying different services, the order the handlers will be executed is exactly in the order you define them in the playbook. All right? And so this is the service keyword, like this is how you define a handler. the name of the service and the state you want restarted in this case. And you'll be referring to the handler by the name you define here, restart Apache. It could be any other name, you will use it here in the notify. All right, so the templates, template files, playbooks, there's a lot of files that start to show up in your provisioning. You want to get things organized, of course. Also because you usually want to reuse things, right? You have a lot of different servers and you want to reuse provisioning for web server to replica and to things like that. So the Ansible uses something called roles, but it's basically modules. It's because there are modules too, but it's something else. But it's like Puppet modules or Chef cookbooks. It's a way to organize your provisioning files so they are easily accessible by Ansible. So Ansible knows where to find some files and it keeps a good structure in your provisioning. So basically this is how roles look like. So we have a folder called roles and this is like the default stuff. Okay, so you have a roles folder, and inside the roles folder, you define your roles. So each folder will be a role. And I have two different roles here, init and nginx PHP. The minimal structure for a role needs to have a tasks folder. So the tasks folder, we have a main.yml file, and this is the main provisioning script that will run when you include the role. Nginx PHP here is a more complex role because it has templates and it also has handlers to restart. So you can also move the handlers to this file, and the tasks are moved to the tasks folder, the main.yml file, and the templates will be here. So what happens is, in your playbook, you will be using a very simplified structure. You don't need to define the tasks, the handlers, you just need to define the roles. And this will automatically include the main YML inside the tasks folder for each role. So instead of, when you use this structure, and the example of the template file, you don't need to provide the full path to the template, you just need to provide bhost.tpl. Ansible will know that it's inside a templates folder inside that role. And the roles will be executed in the same order you include them in the playbook, just as with the tasks. So, that was what I had. It was really a crash course, just so you see the possibilities and what you can do with Ansible. And now I would like to share some resources quickly. Ansible Galaxy is a collection of roles, and especially roles, and that you can find shared by the community. So you can go there and find a role for pretty much anything you want for PHP, Nginx. See here, Nginx roles. So you can find a lot of roles there, but there is one thing. They are a bit complex because they were made to work in different operating systems, and that adds complexity to the roles. That is awesome because you can use the same role in CentOS, Ubuntu, Debian, et al., and others. But if you want to understand and create your own roles, it can be a bit complex. So I created Ansible specifically for PHP projects, but you can still reuse it for other projects too as a base. Remove the PHP part and you will be okay. So basically it's very simple. You choose a box that you want because it's also more for Vagrant, more focused on Vagrant. Because you can use Ansible with Vagrant and it's very easy. So you choose the options for Vagrant, you choose the options for the web server, and then you download the package. And we use very simple roles, so you can really understand what is going on. It's very simple, but it's focused on Ubuntu. So it's for learning purposes mostly. Just a disclaimer. So that is what I have for today. And you can find more tutorials, more material about Ansible in our community, in the DigitalOcean community. You can use this link. And if you have any questions or about Ansible or about DigitalOcean or anything that you heard today by me, you can find me. I will be around all day. So that's it. Thank you.